It took 10 generations from Adam to Noah. In these 10 generations, man had to be destroyed because of his sin, by means of the great flood. But God promised never again. It then took 10 generations from Noah to Abraham, and he became one of the most important figures in the story of mankind. He became the father of 3 of our main religions today, and his life became very important to our lives today. This is his story. Now the Lord said to Abram,
Go from your country, and from your relatives, and from your father's house, to the land which I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed.
So Abram went away as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, and the people which they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. Now the Canaanites were in the land at that time, and the Lord appeared to Abram and said,
To your descendants I will give this land.
So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Then he proceeded from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. Then Abram journeyed on, continuing toward the Negev. Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a time, because the famine was severe in the land. It came about, when he was approaching Egypt, that he said to his wife Sarai,
See now, I know that you are a beautiful woman. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Please say that you are my sister, so that it may go well for me because of you, and that I may live on account of you.
Now it came about, when Abram entered Egypt, that the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Therefore he treated Abram well for her sake. And he gave him sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Then Pharaoh called Abram and said,
What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, She is my sister, so that I took her for myself as a wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go.
And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they escorted him away, with his wife and all that belonged to him. So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev, he and his wife and all that belonged to him, and Lot with him. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. And he went on his journeys from the Negev as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. To the place of the altar which he had made there previously. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents. And the land could not support both of them while living together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to remain together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. Now the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land at that time. So Abram said to Lot,
Please let there be no strife between you and me, nor between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are relatives. Is the entire land not before you? Please separate from me. If you choose the left, then I will go to the right. Or if you choose the right, then I will go to the left.
Lot raised his eyes and saw all the vicinity of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt going toward Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the vicinity of the Jordan, and Lot journeyed eastward. So they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled in the cities of the vicinity of the Jordan, and moved his tents as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him,
Now raise your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see, I will give to you and to your descendants forever. I will make your descendants as plentiful as the dust of the earth, so that if anyone can count the dust of the earth, then your descendants could also be counted. Arise, walk about in the land through its length and width, for I will give it to you.
Then Abram moved his tent and came and lived by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. And it came about in the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of Goyim, that they made war with Bera king of Sodom, and with Birsha king of Gomorrah. Shinab king of Admah, and Shemeber king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar. All these kings came as allies to the valley of Siddim, that is, the Salt Sea. For 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horites on their Mount Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, that is, Kadesh, and conquered all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who lived in Hazazon Tamar, and the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar, came out. And they lined up for battle against them in the valley of Siddim. Against Chedorlaomer king of Elam, Tidal king of Goyim, Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell into them. But those who survived fled to the hill country. Then they took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food supply, and departed. They also took Lot, Abram's nephew, and his possessions, and departed, for he was living in Sodom. Then a survivor came and told Abram the Hebrew. Now he was residing by the oaks of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they were allies with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he led out his trained men, born in his house, numbering 318, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Then he divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is north of Damascus. He brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his relative Lot with his possessions, and also the women and the other people. Then, after his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shaveh, that is, the king's valley. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. Now he was a priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said,
Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has handed over your enemies to you.
And he gave him 1/10 of everything. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram,
Give the people to me, and take the possessions for yourself.
But Abram said to the king of Sodom,
I have sworn to the Lord God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, so that you do not say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing except what the young men have eaten, and the share of the men who went with me, Anna, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their share.
After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying,
Do not fear, Abram. I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be very great.
But Abram said,
Lord God, what will you give me, since I am childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? Since you have given no offspring to me, one born in my house is my heir.
Then behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying,
This man will not be your heir, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir.
And he took him outside and said,
Now look toward the heavens and count the stars, if you are able to count them.
And he said to him,
So shall your descendants be.
Then he believed in the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. And he said to him,
I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess it.
But he said,
Lord God, how may I know that I will possess it?
So he said to him,
Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon.
Then he brought all these to him and cut them in two, and laid each half opposite the other. But he did not cut the birds, and birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. Now, when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And behold, terror and great darkness fell upon him. Then God said to Abram,
Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, where they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. But I will also judge the nation whom they will serve, and afterward they will come out with many possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You will be buried at a good old age. Then in the 4th generation they will return here, for the wrongdoing of the Amorite is not yet complete.
Now it came about, when the sun had set, that it was very dark. And behold, a smoking oven and a flaming torch appeared, which passed between these pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying,
To your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenite, the Kenizzite, the Cadmonite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Rephaim, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Girgashite, and the Jebusite.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne him a child, but she had an Egyptian slave woman whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram,
See now, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Please have relations with my slave woman. Perhaps I will obtain children through her.
And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And so after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Abram's wife Sarai took Hagar the Egyptian, her slave woman, and gave her to her husband Abram as his wife. Then he had relations with Hagar, and she conceived. And when Hagar became aware that she had conceived, her mistress was insignificant in her sight. So Sarai said to Abram,
May the wrong done to me be upon you. I put my slave woman into your arms, but when she saw that she had conceived, I was insignificant in her sight. May the Lord judge between you and me.
But Abram said to Sarai,
Look, your slave woman is in your power. Do to her what is good in your sight.
So Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. Now the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness. By the spring on the way to Shur. He said,
Hagar, Sarai's slave woman, from where have you come and where are you going?
and she said,
I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai.
So the angel of the Lord said to her,
Return to your mistress and submit to her authority.
The angel of the Lord also said to her,
I will greatly multiply your descendants so that they will be too many to count.
The angel of the Lord said to her further,
Behold, you are pregnant, and you will give birth to a son, and you shall name him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. But he will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him, and he will live in defiance of all his brothers.
Then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her.
You are a God who sees me.
For she said,
Have I even seen him here and lived after he saw me?
Therefore the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore a son to Abram, and Abram named his son, to whom Hagar gave birth, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to him. Now when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him,
I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you exceedingly.
Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying,
As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you will be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall you be named Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and to your descendants after you. And I will give to you and to your descendants after you the land where you live as a stranger, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
God said further to Abraham,
Now as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be the sign of the covenant between me and you. And every male among you who is 8 days old shall be circumcised throughout your generations, including a slave who is born in the house, or who is bought with money from any foreigner, who is not of your descendants. A slave who is born in your house, or who is bought with your money, shall certainly be circumcised. So my covenant shall be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. But as for an uncircumcised male, one who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant.
Then God said to Abraham,
As for your wife Sarai, you shall not call her by the name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and indeed I will give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her.
Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed. and said in his heart,
Will a child be born to a man 100 years old? And will Sarah, who is 90 years old, give birth to a child?
And Abraham said to God,
Oh, that Ishmael might live before you.
But God said,
No, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you shall name him Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I will bless him, and make him fruitful, and multiply him exceedingly. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this season next year.
When he finished talking with him, God went up from Abraham. Then Abraham took his son Ishmael, and all the slaves who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's household, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin on this very same day, as God had said to him. Now Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And his son Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. On this very same day, Abraham was circumcised, as well as his son Ishmael. And all the men of his household, those who were born in the house or bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Now the Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, while he was sitting at the tent door in the heat of the day. When he raised his eyes and looked, behold, 3 men were standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed down to the ground and said,
My lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought and wash your feet, and make yourselves comfortable under the tree. And I will bring a piece of bread, so that you may refresh yourselves. After that you may go on, since you have visited your servant.
And they said,
So do as you have said.
So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said,
Quickly prepare 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make bread cakes.
Abraham also ran to the herd and took a tender and choice calf and gave it to the servant, and he hurried to prepare it. He took curds and milk and the calf which he had prepared and set it before them, and he was standing by them under the tree as they ate. Then they said to him,
Where is your wife Sarah?
And he said,
There in the tent.
He said,
I will certainly return to you at this time next year, and behold, your wife Sarah will have a son.
And Sarah was listening at the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. Sarah was past childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying,
After I have become old, am I to have pleasure my Lord being old also?
But the Lord said to Abraham,
Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I actually give birth to a child when I am so old? Is anything too difficult for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you, at this time next year, and Sarah will have a son.
Sarah denied it, however, saying,
I did not laugh.
for she was afraid. And he said,
No, but you did laugh.
Then the men rose up from there and looked down toward Sodom. And Abraham was walking with them to send them off. The Lord said,
Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Since Abraham will certainly become a great and mighty nation, and in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed. For I have chosen him, so that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken about him.
And the Lord said,
The outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see whether they have done entirely as the outcry, which has come to me indicates, and if not, I will know.
Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, while Abraham was still standing before the Lord. Abraham approached and said,
Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous people within the city. Will you indeed sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you, shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly?
So the Lord said,
If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare the entire place on their account.
And Abraham replied, Now behold, I have ventured to speak to the Lord, although I am but dust and ashes. Suppose the 50 righteous are lacking 5.
Will you destroy the whole city because of 5?
And he said,
I will not destroy it if I find 45 there.
And he spoke to him yet again and said,
Suppose 40 are found there.
And he said,
I will not do it on account of the 40.
Then he said,
Oh, may the Lord not be angry, and I shall speak. Suppose 30 are found there.
I will not do it if I find 30 there.
And he said,
Oh, behold, I have ventured to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there.
And he said,
I will not destroy it on account of the 20.
Then he said,
Oh, may the Lord not be angry, and I shall speak only this once. Suppose 10 are found there.
And he said,
I will not destroy it on account of the 10.
As soon as he had finished speaking to Abraham, the Lord departed, and Abraham returned to his place. Now the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he stood up to meet them, and bowed down with his face to the ground. And he said,
Now behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house, and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way.
They said,
No, but we shall spend the night in the public square.
Yet he strongly urged them, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he prepared a feast for them, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old. All the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot, and said to him,
Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may have relations with them.
But Lot went out to them at the doorway and shut the door behind him, and said,
Please, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Now look, I have 2 daughters who have not had relations with any man. Please let me bring them out to you, and do to them whatever you like. Only do not do anything to these men, because they have come under the shelter of my roof.
But they said,
Get out of the way.
They also said,
This one came in as a foreigner, and already he is acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them.
So they pressed hard against Lot and moved forward to break the door. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, from the small to the great. So that they became weary of trying to find the doorway. Then the 2 men said to Lot,
Whom else do you have here? A son-in-law and your sons and daughters, and whomever you have in the city, bring them out of the place. For we are about to destroy this place, because their outcry has become so great before the Lord, that the Lord has sent us to destroy it.
So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, and said,
Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is destroying the city.
But he appeared to his sons-in-law to be joking. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying,
Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city.
But he hesitated. So the men grasped his hand and the hand of his wife, and the hands of his 2 daughters, because the compassion of the Lord was upon him. And they brought him out, and put him outside the city. When they had brought them outside, one said,
Escape for your life. Do not look behind you and do not stay anywhere in the surrounding area. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away.
But Lot said to them,
Oh no, my lords. Now behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your compassion, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, for the disaster will overtake me and I will die. Now behold, this town is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there, is it not small, so that my life may be saved.
And he said to him,
Behold, I grant you this request also, not to overthrow the town of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there.
Therefore the town was named Zoar. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the surrounding area, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife, from behind him, looked back. And she became a pillar of salt. Now Abraham got up early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the surrounding area. And behold, he saw the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a furnace. So it came about, when God destroyed the cities of the surrounding area, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the destruction, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. Now Lot went up from Zoar with his 2 daughters and stayed in the mountains, because he was afraid to stay in Zoar. And he stayed in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Then the firstborn said to the younger,
Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to have relations with us according to the custom of all the earth. Come, let's make our father drink wine, and let's sleep with him so that we may keep our family alive through our father.
So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and slept with her father. And he did not know when she lay down or got up. On the following day, the firstborn said to the younger,
Look, I slept last night with my father. Let's make him drink wine tonight too. Then you go in and sleep with him, so that we may keep our family alive through our father.
So they had their father drink wine that night too, and the younger got up and slept with him. And he did not know when she lay down or got up. And so both of the daughters of Lot conceived by their father. The firstborn gave birth to a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. As for the younger, she also gave birth to a son and named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the sons of Ammon to this day. Now Abraham journeyed from there toward the land of the Negev, and settled between Kadesh and Shur. Then he lived for a time in Gerar. And Abraham said of his wife Sarah,
She is my sister.
So Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent men and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night, and said to him,
Behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is married.
Now Abimelech had not come near her, and he said,
Lord, will you kill a nation, even though blameless? Did he himself not say to me, She is my sister, and she herself said, He is my brother? In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands, I have done this.
Then God said to him in the dream,
Yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all who are yours.
So Abimelech got up early in the morning and called all his servants, and told all these things in their presence, and the people were greatly frightened. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him,
What have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done.
And Abimelech said to Abraham,
What have you encountered that you have done this thing?
Abraham said,
Because I thought, surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came about, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is the kindness which you will show to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, He is my brother.
Abimelech then took sheep and oxen and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham and returned his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said,
"Behold, my land is before you. Settle wherever you please."
To Sarah he said,
"Look, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is your vindication before all who are with you, and before everyone you are cleared."
Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his female slaves, so that they gave birth to children. For the Lord had completely closed all the wombs of the household of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Then the Lord took note of Sarah as he had said. And the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. So Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the appointed time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham named his son who was born to him, the son whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said,
God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me.
And she said,
Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have given birth to a son in his old age.
And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham held a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Now Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking Isaac. Therefore she said to Abraham,
Drive out this slave woman and her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be an heir with my son Isaac.
The matter distressed Abraham greatly because of his son Ishmael. But God said to Abraham,
Do not be distressed because of the boy and your slave woman. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her. For through Isaac your descendants shall be named. And of the son of the slave woman I will make a nation also, because he is your descendant.
So Abraham got up early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water. And gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder, and gave her the boy, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was used up, she left the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, about a bow shot away, for she said,
May I not see the boy die?
And she sat opposite him, and raised her voice, and wept. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her,
"What is the matter with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Get up, lift up the boy, and hold him by the hand, for I will make a great nation of him."
Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew, and he lived in the wilderness and became an archer. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Now it came about at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying,
God is with you in all that you do. So now swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me or with my offspring or with my descendants, but according to the kindness that I have shown to you, you shall show to me and to the land in which you have resided.
Abraham said,
I swear it.
But Abraham complained to Abimelech because of the well of water which the servants of Abimelech had seized. And Abimelech said,
I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, nor did I hear of it until today.
So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. But Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Then Abimelech said to Abraham,
What do these 7 ewe lambs mean, which you have set by themselves?
He said,
You shall take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, so that it may be a witness for me, that I dug this well.
Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because there the two of them took an oath. So they made a covenant at Beersheba. And Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, got up and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham resided in the land of the Philistines for many days. Now it came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him,
Abraham.
And he said,
Here I am.
Then he said,
Take now your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac. And go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you.
So Abraham got up early in the morning and saddled his donkey. And took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And he split wood for the burnt offering, and set out, and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from a distance. Then Abraham said to his young men,
Stay here with the donkey, and I and the boy will go over there, and we will worship and return to you.
And Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it on his son Isaac, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So the 2 of them walked on together. Isaac spoke to his father Abraham and said,
My father!
Here I am, my son.
Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?
God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son.
So the two of them walked on together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him. And Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood, and bound his son Isaac, and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. And Abraham reached out with his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said,
Abraham, Abraham.
Here I am.
Do not reach out your hand against the boy, and do not do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me.
Then Abraham raised his eyes and looked. And behold, behind him was a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering in the place of his son. And Abraham named that place, "The Lord will provide," as it is said to this day.
On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided.
Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven, and said,
By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand, which is on the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice.
So Abraham returned to his young men, and they got up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived in Beersheba. Now it came about after these things that Abraham was told, saying,
Behold, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz his firstborn, Buz his brother Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel.
And it was Bethuel who fathered Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also gave birth to Tebah, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. Now Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham arose from mourning before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying,
I'm a stranger and a foreign resident among you. Give me a burial site among you so that I may bury my dead out of my sight.
The sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him,
Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our graves. None of us will refuse you his grave for burying your dead.
So Abraham stood up and bowed to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying,
If you are willing to let me bury my dead out of my sight, listen to me, and plead with Ephron the son of Zohar for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah which he owns, which is at the end of his field. For the full price let him give it to me in your presence for a burial site.
Now Ephron was sitting among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham so that the sons of Heth heard, that is, all who entered the gate of his city, saying,
No, my lord, listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of the sons of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead.
And Abraham bowed before the people of the land. But he spoke to Ephron, so that the people of the land heard, saying,
If you will only please listen to me, I will give the price of the field, accept it from me so that I may bury my dead there.
Then Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him,
My lord, listen to me. A plot of land worth 400 shekels of silver, what is that between me and you? So bury your dead.
Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver which he had named in the presence of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency acceptable to a merchant. So Ephron's field, which was in Machpelah, which faced Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees which were in the field, that were within all the confines of its border, were deeded over to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who entered the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that was in it were deeded over to Abraham for a burial site by the sons of Heth. Now Abraham was old, advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in every way. Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household who was in charge of all that he owned,
Please place your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I live. But you will go to my country and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Isaac.
The servant said to him,
Suppose the woman is not willing to follow me to this land. Should I take your son back to the land from where you came?
Then Abraham said to him,
Beware that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and who swore to me, saying, To your descendants I will give this land. He will send his angel ahead of you, and you will take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free of this oath of mine. Only do not take my son back there.
Suppose the woman is not willing to follow me to this land. Should I take your son back to the land from where you came?
Then the servant took 10 camels from the camels of his master, and went out with a variety of good things of his master's in his hand. So he set out, and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water when it was evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said,
Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now may it be that the young woman to whom I say, Please let down your jar so that I may drink, and who answers, Drink, and I will water your camels also. May she be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master.
And it came about, before he had finished speaking, that behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out with her jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had had relations with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said,
Please let me drink a little water from your jar.
And she said,
Drink, my lord.
Then she quickly lowered her jar to her hand and gave him a drink. Now, when she had finished giving him a drink, she said,
I will also draw water for your camels until they have finished drinking.
So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran back to the well to draw, and she drew for all his camels. Meanwhile, the man was taking a close look at her in silence to find out whether the Lord had made his journey successful or not. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her wrists, weighing 10 shekels in gold. And he said,
Whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room for us to stay overnight at your father's house?
She said to him,
I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor.
Again she said to him,
We have plenty of both straw and feed, and room to stay overnight.
Then the man bowed low and worshipped the Lord. And he said,
Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindness and his trustworthiness toward my master. As for me, the Lord has guided me in the way to the house of my master's brothers.
Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran outside to the man at the spring. When he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists, and when he heard the words of his sister Rebekah, saying,
This is what the man said to me.
He went to the man, and behold, he was standing by the camels at the spring. And he said,
Come in, blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside, since I have prepared the house and a place for the camels?
So the man entered the house. Then Laban unloaded the camels, and he gave straw and feed to the camels, and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. But when food was set before him to eat, he said,
I will not eat until I have stated my business.
And he said,
Speak on.
So he said,
I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, so that he has become rich, and he has given him flocks and herds, and silver and gold, and servants and slave women, and camels and donkeys. Now my master's wife Sarah bore a son to my master in her old age, and he has given him all that he has. My master made me swear, saying, You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I live. But you shall go to my father's house, and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son. Then I said to my master, Suppose the woman does not follow me. And he said to me, The Lord, before whom I have walked, will send his angel with you to make your journey successful, and you will take a wife for my son from my relatives and from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath when you come to my relatives. And if they do not give her to you, you will be free from my oath. So I came today to the spring and said, Lord, God of my master Abraham, if now you will make my journey on which I have been going successful. Behold, I am standing by the spring, and may it be that the young unmarried woman who comes out to draw water, and to whom I say, Please let me drink a little water from your jar.
And she says to me,
You drink, and I will draw for your camels also. Let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I had finished speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder, and went down to the spring and drew water. And I said to her, Please let me drink. She quickly lowered her jar from her shoulder and said, Drink, and I will water your camels also. So I drank, and she watered the camels also. Then I asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. And I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrists. And I bowed low and worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had guided me in the right way to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. So now, if you are going to deal kindly and truthfully with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me now, so that I may turn to the right or the left.
Then Laban and Bethuel replied,
"The matter has come from the Lord, so we cannot speak to you bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken."
When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. And the servant brought out articles of silver and articles of gold and garments, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they got up in the morning, he said,
"Send me away to my master."
But her brother and her mother said,
"Let the young woman stay with us a few days, say 10. Afterwards she may go."
However, he said to them,
"Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away, so that I may go to my master."
And they said,
"We will call the young woman and ask her."
Then they called Rebekah and said to her,
"Will you go with this man?"
And she said,
"I will go."
So they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse with Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her,
"May you, our sister, become thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gate of those who hate them."
Then Rebekah got up with her female attendants, and they mounted the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and departed. Now Isaac had come back from a journey to Beer Lahai Roi, for he was living in the Negev. Isaac went out to meditate in the field toward evening, and he raised his eyes and looked. And behold, camels were coming. Rebekah raised her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel. She said to the servant,
"Who is that man walking in the field to meet us?"
And the servant said,
"He is my master."
Then she took her veil and covered herself. The servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Now Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore to him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan fathered Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letishim, and Leomim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldiah. All of these were the sons of Keturah. Now Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. But to the sons of his concubines, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living. And sent them away from his son Isaac eastward, to the land of the east. Then his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. In the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, facing Mamre. The field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah.